Hi, this is Jessica Adams. If you like astrology and murder mysteries, how about our new audiobook, The Aries Billionaire?
Hi, I'm Rachel Wells. The Aries Billionaire is the first audiobook in my new series with Jessica, Leo Moon, Astrologer Detective.
You can order it at audible.co.uk now.
Leo Moon is the Hercule Poirot of horoscopes,
Though he's a bit younger and better looking.
and we really hope you like it.
Rachel is a Sunday Times bestseller, so I predict you will.
This is the Astrology Show podcast with Jessica Adams.
Thanks, Shane. Here is your tarot and astrology for the week starting March the 4th. Aries. Well, a large sum of money is waiting if you believe in it and believe that you deserve it. Jupiter in Taurus can be kind to you, and you only get this cycle every 12 years. So this is a large amount of money, and this is a big cycle. The planet of growth and abundance in the sign of finance. It's here to help you. Of course, any mental blocks about a huge sum must be removed. This is the kind of money that you could renovate with, move with, or go traveling with. But it's funny how often people don't believe that it's real or could be there for them, or maybe don't back that kind of money. There are all sorts of funny obstacles that we put in our own way, get in our own way between this and that. So your challenge this week is really to believe in it, reach for it, own it, accept it, and enjoy it. It will make a difference to your life. Taurus. Well, all great bands have musical differences, no matter if you're talking about U2 or the Sex Pistols. It's actually personality differences, of course. Your club, team, group, circle, community, network is now separated by strong characters. There's the loud one, the overbearing one, the unusual one, the independent one, the lone wolf, and so on. Within this community or this circle, these Pisces transits are behind this temporary lack of cohesion. It is actually a waste of time and energy because even though you're all, I guess, enjoying your own space or owning your right to your own space, you're not actually doing anything together. And the potential is really there. In fact, you could collectively structure or restructure a project, plan, an idea, anything at all that takes all of you. Maybe you need to work that out this week and see, are you all prepared to set your differences aside and join forces? Or maybe one or two people actually need to leave the circle. That's also possible. Gemini. Your tarot card this week is the Hermit. You also have Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus in your zone of solitude, the 12th house. By separating yourself from all the noise and distraction, you do gain. You need to find your spirit or your soul this week. You also need to find meaning. When the time is right, you can shed a skin, re-emerge and relaunch in May 2024 when Jupiter goes into Gemini and your zone of self-promotion, appearances, and so on. Yet before this image relaunch, there's really no point in doing that before you've reached an understanding with yourself about your own soul, spirit, or psychology, and maybe with God. It's on that level. Cancer. The transits in Pisces now suggest academia, publishing, wisdom, the media, and the loftier sections of the World Wide Web. Brilliant minds know to learn as well as teach, and that's evident this week. And that teaching and learning does not have to be formal. It can be unlabeled education. There is an important website, thesis, publication, book, proposal, or similar this week. It may be a script. This is quite an epic time for you. Saturn in Pisces is heavy, and Neptune in Pisces is profound. So with these two, this is not just another information flow. This kind of information or knowledge does have the power to change things. Leo. People power in a group, between friends or allies, is something to celebrate. You are feeling the arrival of Jupiter in Gemini early in your zone of community and collaboration. This cycle actually starts in May, but there are big signs now. You are on your way with the people who matter, your social life, social media, solidarity, sisterhood and or brotherhood is strong. You are all very different, but you are sharing the week and you have a good reason to enjoy it. Because when you've harvested this much from life, you can also do more with it. So think about the next few months, even the next few years. There is a very strong feel-good factor this week, Leo, with this circle of people and yourself. But beyond that, being productive long-term is the real key. Virgo. The Hanged Man is your tarot card, and it shows you dangling between the present and the future, quite stuck, just for the moment. Whenever this happens, there is enlightenment. So this enforced period of suspension or suspended animation is like a light going off in your head. You actually need to wait it out in order to see the light. We have retrogrades now, and that's typical when you are rehearsing but not actually taking action. You also have two sides of the family tree to choose from. This may be your mother's side and your father's side, or it may be the own family that you've created and your birth family. So perhaps between two locations. That's also a possibility. This kind of choice can't be done quickly or easily. It has to be reached when you're good and ready. And therefore, this week is a time of no action, no change, but eventually that will come. Libra. You don't really get enough of these recent Aquarius and Aries transits without loss. Several solid relationships in your life have fallen over. One may have even been toxic. Libra, the good news is there is a bridge to the future, yet you are only human and cannot be expected to just get over things emotionally and move on too quickly. So this week is about adjusting and adapting to who or what has fallen by the wayside, let you down, or proven itself to be quite empty or hollow for you. Yet on the plus side, there are two precious relationships that you have forgotten about or put to one side, which are ready and waiting. And also, on the plus side, when the time is right, you will be ready to move on. The geographical distance here is emotional distance as well. So there may be a holiday, a new place to live, a new place to work or be, a new place to visit. And it's that stretching across the map, which also allows you to put the pulse behind you. Scorpio. The Aries transits coming in are about the importance of health, and good health costs money. You have cycles in your sixth house of healing. So this is you helping others get better or you looking for help. The health issue is mental or physical. There is finance available. It is worth looking for and taking. In fact, deliberately searching for and claiming. Now, this can be medical insurance, government assistance, a helping hand from a good cause, a bank with money to lend you, and the rest. You or others need to put a price on being well this week, and yet you can't because it's priceless.
Sagittarius, your tarot card this week is the High Priestess, which shows a woman holding a manuscript, a book, a thesis, maybe a website, and she is about to transmit powerful knowledge to people. Now, this may be you or a woman that you know. You do have Pluto right in your third house of information transmission, education, academia, publishing, the media, and the web for the first time in 248 years. Now, this is a major Arcana tarot card, so this is a major week, and whatever is written down or broadcast is of major importance. If you are looking for mentorship, tutoring, or guidance, you have come to the right person this week. It may also be, Sagittarius, that you are in possession of something that is really the output of years of your own experience and your own information gathering. This would be the turning point for you. There's a kind of wisdom about Pluto in Aquarius in the third house that we don't get from other transits, and you haven't experienced this in your adult life. You had a brief taste of it last year, but Pluto's more or less here to stay now, and so is this knowledge. Whether you're picking it up or passing it on, it's incredibly important this week.
Capricorn. The transits in 2024 in Gemini fall in your sector of health, remedy, cures, healers, doctors, surgeons, nurses, and complementary medicine. This is also where we find psychologists and psychiatrists. Hope springs. You are actually experiencing Jupiter in Gemini with all its hope for the future before it really starts in May. And this week will be a tremendous period of potential reward later, as the gateway to healing for others or for yourself is there. There is money available to pay for this. It can be paid out, lent, or donated. And that money can change everything. In fact, it's the difference between health and the other. And you or other people need good health. Aquarius. The scales of justice appear this week. Your tarot card is justice. Now, this is a legal outcome. It may also be an unofficial balancing of the spiritual books. So there's no actual law book involved here, but it does feel as if there's symmetry or harmony. This may be on a karmic or soul level with the other side or the other person. Aquarius, you can be judge or jury with this sort of chart pattern. You can also be waiting for a verdict. It would be absolutely fair, if so, even and balanced, and something that both sides have to accept. Your tarot card this week is from the major arcana, so this idea of balancing everything between yourself and another is also major. In your birth chart, it's very likely that the transit of the node in Libra, the sign of the scales, is having an impact on you. Pisces. Well, delegate or ditch this week. There is too much on your shoulders. You have Saturn in Pisces in your own sign, and that is quite a heavy load to carry. So for the sake of appearances, you are shouldering way more than you can handle for comfort. Of course, the ultimate goal for you is a particular house, apartment, or property investment, and you're quite right to aim for that, because by 2025, you could get it with Jupiter in Gemini, or put a dent in your mortgage, or renovate. For now, though, you have to think about your own well-being and state of mind. What can you get rid of? What matters? What can other people take on? And so on and so forth. Your tarot card this week is Aries, the Ace of Pentacles or coins. Taurus, the Five of Wands or staves. Gemini, the Hermit. Cancer, the High Priestess. Leo, the Three of Cups. Virgo, the Hanged Man. Libra, the Five of Cups. Scorpio, the Five of Coins or Pentacles. Sagittarius, the High Priestess. Capricorn, the Five of Coins or Pentacles. Aquarius, Justice. Pisces, the Ten of Wands or Staves. Babies born this week have the Sun, Mercury, Saturn and Neptune all in Pisces. These babies and children need to be alone, so try to give them at the very least tent on the floor. If it's your birthday, you will find luck with the neighbours and or a neighbouring place from May 2024 until June 2025. Famous birthdays this week include Marquis Smith, who would have been 67 on the 5th of March, David Gilmour, who is 78 on the 6th of March, Gary Newman is 66 on the 8th of March, Mickey DeLenz is 79 on the 8th of March, and Martin Fry is 66 on the 9th, all Pisces. Fated connections this week are Sagittarius and Cancer, connected through academia, the media, the web, education or publishing. A very special project or plan is ready to share, and female wisdom this week is second to none. Capricorn and Scorpio are linked by the need to put a price tag on healing, cure, therapy or remedy, and the fact is some things are priceless and health is one of them, but it is also a price that can be paid. Your birth chart aspects this week include Mercury at 27 Pisces in conjunction with Neptune at 27 Pisces on the 8th of March. If you have anything in Pisces in your natal chart, then March 7th, 8th and 9th are a gateway to the spirit world, hypnosis or religious experience, prophetic dreams, or trance mediumship. In fact, we are in Pisces weather. The Sun, the new moon, Mercury, Venus and Mars will all join Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, the sign of the fishes, in March 2024. I've also been asked about Mercury retrograde coming up soon. It starts on the 19th of March and ends on the 14th of May, give or take a day, catering for world time zone differences. Mercury in your birth chart starts out at 15 Aries in the first house of image and appearance. It then gets stuck at 27 Aries on the 2nd of April before it goes all the way back to 15 Aries again. So classically, this is about rescheduling, delaying or cancelling anything to do with image. It may be your business card, your website, cosmetic surgery, photographs, film clips, weight loss, stylists, publicists, self-promotion, and so on. So those dates again to expect the need for Plan B or for Plan C are from the 19th of March to the 14th of May. Mercury is the planet that we associate with communication, information, and negotiation. And when it retrogrades or goes backwards and forwards, so do those things. In fact, it is so notorious that even non-astrologers will refuse to sign a contract on Mercury retrograde. It went mainstream some years ago. People say Mercury is in retrograde, which is actually wrong. It just is retrograde. When people look at the ephemeris, which is a table of planetary positions, they can see R retrograde next to Mercury. And that's where a lot of the confusion begins, because you still see some people online telling you that it's a shorter period than you might think. In fact, there's something called the shadow. Before and after, you see R for retrograde. And it's this period that's as tricky as anything. Mercury retrograde has quite the reputation in the history books. The Titanic sank on it. It's often about small details that make all the difference to a large enterprise. And when the small details don't work, things collectively start to go wrong. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a Titanic in your life, but if everything else in the chart aligns, it's quite true that yes, it may be. What happened with the Titanic really came down to a missing key to a cabinet containing a pair of binoculars and the fact that messages were not passed on that should have been passed on. It can all be traced back to the radio room or the quiet room. But from that, big things happened and the stars did not align. So Mercury retrograde has to be taken seriously, in as much that you may prefer to do something later and not during the period itself, or allow for a period of rehearsal. It's very good for stop-start dress rehearsal or beta testing. So between the 19th of March and the 14th of May, given that it's in Aries, which is the sign we associate with self-promotion, image and appearances, you can bank on the fact that social media like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter will be where some of the chaos unfolds. Aries as a sign in your solar chart rules something publicly that is also going to be subject to change, delay, and rescheduling. If you are an Aries, then it's about you. So this may well be your name. It may be your face. If you're a Taurus, then it's about religion or self-help or tarot or therapy, something insular and quiet. If you're a Gemini, then it's about your friends, your social life, and the groups that you're involved with. So, for example, if you're planning a school reunion, you would expect an awful lot of cancellations and changes to affect the pre-planning. If you're a Cancerian, it's about your career, your academic career, or your unpaid work. So if you were going for a job interview on Mercury retrograde, you might want to have Plan B and Plan C up your sleeve and get a second pair of eyes on the contract before you sign it. If you're a Leo, then this transit is in your 9th house, which rules foreigners and foreign countries. So again, you'd be quite wary about cancelled flights or X factors which affect your trip overseas if you're still travelling. Certainly, it would affect people in other countries and their communication with you. If you're a Virgo, it's going to be about finance, property, business, or charity. So this is probably the best time for you to go over things and look back over them rather than start anything new. If you were going to switch banks, then you'd need to be prepared for the full blast of Mercury retrograde. If you're signing anything as a Virgo or accepting signatures, do read the fine print with a magnifying glass. If you're a Libran, then this transit is in your 7th house, which rules duets and duels. So this is about your marriage. It may be about a love triangle. It may be about your professional partner, or a fierce period of conflict or dispute with somebody that you consider to be on the other side to you. As an astrologer, you would pick a different time to try and negotiate, or you might begin talking or emailing, but you would expect things to go backwards and forwards for the whole period until the 14th of May. If you're a Scorpio, then this transit in Aries is in your 6th house of health and well-being and lifestyle and workload. It's a good time to research and do your homework and get second and third opinions, but you need to be aware that Mercury does rule communication. So when it's going backwards and forwards, you are very unlikely to get the full final facts and figures until the end of the cycle on the 14th of May. If you're a Sagittarian, then this is in your zone of courtship, the bedroom, children, teenagers, and a younger generation. On the lightest level, this can sometimes mean that a baby is named and the name changes later. That can happen. On an internet dating level, you would almost expect there to be unanswered emails or replies going to the spam filter. On a more serious level, if your personal chart is affected, for example, if you have factors in Libra, which are being opposed by Mercury retrograde, then as a Sagittarian, you would want to take special care with marriage contracts and even separation. If you're a Capricorn, this is about your family, your household, your house or apartment, your town or country, and sometimes it can be a combination of those things. You may want to choose another time to go into an expensive renovation or to proceed with a property auction. Mercury is notorious for things coming to nothing, so you can put in a mortgage application and pay for it, only to find that it goes on the scrap heap later. That can happen. Sometimes Mercury retrograde is a blessing, and if you need to stretch out a negotiation or do a lot of chopping and changing on the property market, and you know what you're doing, then you would be using this cycle. With the family, though, you might expect there to be rescheduling. If you're born under the sign of Aquarius, then this transit is particularly potentially chaotic for travel, transport, your car, public transport, short journeys, but also the internet and communication in general. This is because the transit of Mercury retrograde in Aries does go through your 3rd house, which Mercury is associated with anyway. So the messenger of the gods, with his winged sandals and winged helmet, is in reverse. If you can picture that, then you will understand why, if you do have an important short trip ahead, you would have plan B and plan C up your sleeve. You wouldn't just assume it's going to go according to plan. If you're born under the sign of Pisces, then this is about shopping and selling. It's about finance and shares. It's about business, legacy, inheritance. It's on that level. Fluctuating exchange rates are absolutely normal on Mercury retrograde, and we tend to find that the share market reacts to it so that nobody knows where they stand. Prices go up and down, and nobody can be relied upon to stick to anything for very long. This, of course, can benefit you. Once again, you have to know what you're doing. But if you're basically shopping or selling and expecting things to be normal, you may want to have an alternative prepared, just because Mercury, as the messenger of the gods, is often associated with issues with the post office, the mail, couriers, and so on. It's a well-documented phenomenon in astrology. Mercury is one of those planets that From the human perspective, here on planet Earth doesn't move backwards at all, but this optical illusion is really symbolic in astrology of a period when everybody needs to just relax and go over things again. You find missing objects turn up on Mercury retrograde, but people also go back on their word, which is a literal translation of what it means. Mercury rules words, retrograde is backwards. People don't do what they're going to do, and they don't say what they're going to say properly. One of the most famous examples of this is the lead up to the Second World War, when negotiations began with Hitler. Hitler went back on his word. This was a classic period of two Mercury things, short journeys and also negotiations for the British, and of course we know where it ended up. So as an astrologer, you tend to see red flags with Mercury retrograde. It's a tricky one because it doesn't mean skyfall. You shouldn't over-dramatise what comes from this cycle, but everything is in context. So if you do have a chart which is going to be strongly affected by Mercury retrograde in Aries, then you might want to pay attention to that. A classic example would be if you have a lot of factors in Cancer, which rules property, in Capricorn, which rules your career, in Libra, which rules your marriage or business partnership, you're going to experience squares or difficult patterns involving Mercury as he goes through. If you also have a lot of factors in Aries, Mercury going backwards and forwards through your first house of self-promotion and name, title, image, reputation, appearances could be quite chaotic for you in terms of a launch, for example, or a planned period of publicity. In general, we tend to see a ripple effect with Mercury retrograde, so what starts to unwind in one part of the world causes more unravelling in another part of the world. Mercury retrograde is, as I said, extremely good for rehearsal and beta testing. So if you had an idea, a project or a plan that you're prepared to see evolve over a couple of months, you would actually use this cycle from 19th of March until the 14th of May to quite consciously go to first draft, second draft, third draft, and so on. People who are mercurial, so like Quicksilver, people who are in the words business, the travel, information or communication business, anybody from perhaps a journalist to a taxi driver or a courier, can be profoundly affected by this cycle. Mercury in mythology had a reputation for being tricky. So tricky people who can't be trusted also tend to turn up on this cycle, it has to be said. So there's a few things to watch out for there. In your own natal chart or birth chart, if you look at Mercury by sign and house, you'll get a clear indication of how you connect and communicate, how you get from A to B. Mercury comes to us from ancient Rome, and the ancient Roman postal system, if you like, consisted of relays between riders on horseback between particular points in Italy. So this very old idea of relays and baton passing and fresh horses and switching paths is today delivered to us by the internet. Whenever we get Mercury retrograde, then what we're really seeing is the equivalent of the old Roman postal system coming apart at the seams. There is an interesting theory that the future causes the present. That comes to us from science, not from astrology, but astrologers would agree with it. In many ways, what you experience on Mercury retrograde, and you may start to see it as early as the 20th or the 21st of March, is a direct function of something up the road ahead that's already starting to come unstuck, affecting us earlier in time. And it is important to note that the big events in history, those events that we all wish we could go back and time travel to and change, are often there because of the Mercury retrograde cycle. Mercury retrograde tends to give us a feeling of if only. So with the Titanic, for example, if only that key had been there to open the filing cabinet, the cabinet that contained the binoculars, if only the messages from other ships in the area had been not only passed on, but paid attention to, If only, if only, if only. In fact, the Titanic itself is a very Mercury story, because what happened on the Titanic led to a revolution in shipping radio. The Titanic, of course, isn't the only example. In fact, every time we get Mercury retrograde somewhere in the world, we tend to see huge traffic jams, for a start. We also see hacking. We see major websites out of action for hours, sometimes days. We see all those classic outcomes that astrologers have come to expect. And the knock-on effect can be quite extreme. After 9/11, for example, we went into a Mercury retrograde that resulted in a kind of a global stop-start with airlines. The resultant chaos from that event was, of course, about more than just Mercury retrograde. What people tend to remember about it is the absolute mess that was resulting for months afterwards from this one event that affected all global airlines. Skeptics say that astrologers are just exaggerating it. Astrologers think that history will prove them right. But wherever you stand on this, it's important to know that other people do play along with it too. So if you're negotiating with someone and they don't want to talk to you until after the 14th of May, now you know why. But if you're there at a property auction, be very careful with your hand movements. I'll see you next week.